Voice of the Cape Drive Time. In studio, a special face-to-face guest, Professor Ismail Lahir, and behind him lies a long tale of travel. He's from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, the West Coast. He's a professor in anesthesiology, I'm not going to say that on radio again, pharmacology and therapeutics. He's just published a paper on the effects of hookah or ochre or water pipe smoking. We'll talk about that later. But he has been a fellow and a guest at Stellenbosch University. But there's more to it than just that. Professor Ismail Lahir, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Vivek. I really appreciate it.
Now, what struck me was you've been visiting Voice of the Cape this afternoon. You actually said that in Vancouver, you were originally South African. We'll get to that. But the best things first, that you actually were listening to Voice of the Cape Drive Time after Fajr in Vancouver. Now, tell us more about that. That is interesting.
Yes, the time difference is about 9 hours this time of the year, and in the winter time, when it's our winter, it's a 10-hour difference. So when I wake up there, it's evening here. So right now in Vancouver, for example, it's 8:15 in the morning.
Right.
So I'll be sitting in my office where I have an internet radio, and I listen to Voice of the Cape.
Yeah, and just by coincidence, it happens to be drive time.
Exactly.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. So we've got one listener in Canada. Hooray, all right.
No, my wife as well. She's now...
We've got two, all right.
My wife is a very keen listener of Voice of the Cape too. So...
That's amazing. But Professor Ismail, you actually 100 years ago were South African. You've travelled a lot, but you were born, I believe, in a town called Nigel, where another man called Johannes Balthazar Foster was actually born.
Yes, the school is named after him there, the white school, and it was pretty much an Afrikaner town, and we lived in Nigel for many years, and then moved to Heidelberg, which is where another dignitary comes from.
I think it was Dr. Verwoerd.
Yeah.
Oh boy, wow, you certainly picked the right ones, didn't you?
And then I've come to Stellenbosch, where they were both at university too.
In fact, that was the heart of the Broederbond in the bad old days. What brought your family to Nigel originally? I mean, how did your family come to South Africa? Well, let's go that far back very quickly.
I guess they came in with the migrant indentured laborers.
In about the 1840s?
Yes. My grandparents, and I think before them, they stayed there, and of course they couldn't go back because you came on a one-way ticket where they would pay your incoming ticket, but if you had to go back to where you came from, it's on your own ticket. So they obviously couldn't afford it.
And so they just stayed behind and tried to make the best of it.
Yeah.
And of course, what's happened, I mean, from India to South Africa, from Nigel to Heidelberg, you ended up in the United States and in Canada. So you left South Africa 50 years ago.
I left 50 years ago. I went when I was still in high school and decided to complete my high school education in England, in London, and went to university there. And then went to Canada for a while and came back to England, then back and forth between Canada and US. So I live in both Canada and US, and largely now in Canada.
Is Canada a more pleasant place to live in than the US? I mean, I'm not an expert in these things at all. I mean,
Canada has a more socialist value system. So no one is left behind. They take care of the poor. The pension plan is there, security for old age is there, free healthcare. If you can't afford it, you won't be left behind. So you won't lose your fortune or your mortgage. You won't have to lose your house because of health. The government is committed to taking care of your health. So we all pay into it, but we get our money back through improved services, better health
services. Yeah. And I believe that your Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau, a very young one, it sounds like he seems to be doing quite a lot of good things.
Well, it's because of his father's speech that I went to listen to, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, that I actually became Canadian.
All right.
Because he embodied all the values that I held close to me. He was very liberal, almost left-wing. And now Justin Trudeau, the son, has followed in his footsteps, but he's a bit more center compared to the dad. But the father was remarkable. He was one of the world leaders with people like Willy Brandt and people like that caliber. And it's a really sort of classy type of politician, which you don't see anymore.
Yeah, I mean, now we just get rubbish.
Exactly. So, I mean,
sadly, yeah.
If I, so his father, I've listened to him a couple of times. He came to talk to the university, and that's sort of won my heart over.
Now, to cut a long story short, here you have been in Stellenbosch. What brought you to Stellenbosch? Was there a South African connection? Were you here for research, to lecture? What was the purpose?
Well, over a number of years, at the different scientific meetings, there's a premier meeting that's held in the United States called the Experimental Biology Meeting, which draws people from around the world. So people save up data and funds to be present at this meeting. And I noticed that there was a regular visitor there from Cape Town, and clearly he was Muslim. So his name was Fadil Esop.
Yeah.
So we became friends and we corresponded by email. And Fadil noticed that there was the scholarship available. And so together with CPUT, with Karima and Fadil, they put together a package and to see what skills can I bring and what works, how can I sort of integrate my skills and my skill set with theirs, do some teaching, and then we have a project that we're working on that's going to last for another 2-3 years. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the back burner, but in terms of the front end, my mission here has been to do some teaching, to say what works in our teaching system that students seem to appreciate and what motivates students. So try to bring some of those techniques in, and then gave a couple of seminars, and then went to CPUT to have a look at their program, which is an excellent program on ambulatory care. For all the guys that run the ambulances and that.
Yeah, we call it paramedics.
They are outstanding group. They are really, really bright.
I'm glad to hear that. In fact, maybe that should be shouted more loudly over the rooftops.
Oh no, they really they really blew my socks off. They were just outstanding. And then the second years at Stellenbosch, I think they work so hard. They are so motivated. They work harder than the faculty. They are incredible. These students, they're unbelievable.
It's certainly very nice and encouraging to actually hear that. So it sounds as if you've been lecturing almost along the lines of trauma medicine, could I assume that? Because, I mean, trauma is quite a big thing in South Africa because of our high crime rate.
Yeah, so I was just an observer for that component, but most of my time is spent at Stellenbosch in terms of the basic sciences and physiology and so on.
Now, of course, as a traveling Muslim, as a Musafir, and we have to, this is like the commercial side of the interview in a sense, isn't it? I'm just joking. But you said you found yourself in Ramadan, in Stellenbosch, and wondering, what am I going to do in this strange town for iftar or after iftar, etc., etc.? And apparently, the good people of Stellenbosch rallied around you. Tell us more.
Well, my host, Fadil, lives in Paarl. So he had to leave early to pick up his daughter. So I knew I couldn't have iftar with Fadil. And then I said, well, I don't know anybody. And, my wife isn't here and I'm alone. And I can't survive on junk food. And even if you could, you can't survive eating alone.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. You have to eat with people, isn't it?
You have to live, because we're Muslims encourage social behavior.
Absolutely.
And I went to the mosque and they had a daily service where people brought the food in, laid the carpets. And by the end of the Ramadan, I can't believe I actually felt I'd gotten myself a huge new family. And on Eid Day, we helped set out tables, feed the needy. And it's going to be very hard to leave the Stellenbosch group because they've shown me a side of compassion, understanding, group behavior that I find to be a very rare occurrence these days. So they just, I can't believe what a wonderful group they are. And then I went to haircut in Stellenbosch, Faisal's group, and even there it's like a big family comes for a haircut.
And in Faisal's barber shop, you can get all the world news. You get the news fresher there than at VOC.
Yeah, Faisal's barber shop is excellent.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's certainly very encouraging. And one thing that has impressed you, I think, as a visitor, you're just saying that you do see a lot of togetherness in the Western Cape, or in Cape Town and Stellenbosch, that one doesn't see in other parts of the world, but where Muslims tend to put themselves into cultural silos, which is so sad, isn't it?
Well, what I really love about Stellenbosch is that Islam is practiced based on brotherhood. Whereas if you go to other parts of South Africa, not to be specific, but it's more of a class system, and who you know, and how well you're connected, and how rich you are, and how far you're up on the ladder. But in Stellenbosch, the playing field is level, and everybody. It's amazing to watch this group.
It's a genuine community.
It's a genuine community.
Genuine community, genuine people.
And may Allah make them stronger and help them, because it's a good group.
Now, we're jumping around a lot because we're trying to cover the whole world in 20 minutes. Your research, Dr. Faidal said I have to ask you a question about your research on hookah, water pipe, they call it hookah pipes in the Western Cape. Okay, hit us. I don't go near these things.
No, I'm glad you don't.
I don't like it. But what did your research findings find out about the water bubble pipes, the water hookah pipe? What are your findings?
Okay. In terms of background, the water pipe, the hookah, first started about 400 years ago in India. And it was, for them, a safer alternative to cigarette smoking. And sadly, that misconception remains. So we tend to think, human nature is, if it's natural, it can't do you any harm, which is wrong. Actually, there are many natural things that actually cause you great harm. And one example is the hookah pipe filled with natural products. So the hookah pipe, even though it's thought of as a natural, safer alternative, actually is quite harmful. And the WHO in 2005 issued a global statement that's saying, look here, we need to regulate its use. And actually, this is far healthier than we thought, far more dangerous than we thought at first. So that's that. Now, what we figured out is that your body creates these, under normal metabolic activity, when you're making energy, little bricks of ATP. In that process, you make free radicals. Now, free radicals are little molecules with an unstable electron. So that's all we can say today. So free radicals are actually good for you because this unstable electron can attack other molecules and form a signal. So it's like electricity. It's a signaling molecule. But when formed in low amounts, they're helpful. But unfortunately, when they accumulate, they can be really, really damaging. Now, what water pipe smoking does, one of the things it does is increases the amount of free radicals.
All right.
But worse than that, the body will maintain a low level of free radicals by metabolizing them, by quenching them. So those enzymes that protect you against free radicals, those enzymes are reduced by water pipe smoking.
Right.
So it's a double whammy. More of the bad guys and the good guys are put to sleep.
Yeah, they go to bed, they go away.
To bed, exactly. So that's what water pipe smoking does. And then if you look at water pipe smoking in general, we think, well, it's not as bad as cigarettes. Cigarettes has close to about 7,000 chemicals in it, out of which about 80 or so are known carcinogens, and about 400 are known toxins. So cigarettes are without a doubt bad. So we'll say,
tobacco leaf packs a punch, doesn't it?
Packs a huge punch. It's just, I think the physiological effect of one cigarette's puff lasts about 2 hours, and these are not good effects. Anyway, so
in fact, if you want to chase snails away, you can use shredded tobacco leaves.
Yeah.
Snails choke on it. Yeah.
So water pipe smoking, we thought, well, is it as bad as cigarette smoking? Well, it doesn't have 7,000 chemicals. It has fewer chemicals, but the most amazing thing about it is that the carcinogens present in water pipe smoking are also present in nicotine.
Mm-hmm.
The danger with water pipe smoking is that in a cigarette you can be puffing in about 50 mils of air.
Mm.
Water pipe smoking you can be puffing in about 500 mils of air, of smoke. Why 500? How does it come about? Well, the resistance of the water pipe outlet is much lower.
Mm.
So you can puff smoking more. The smoking sessions tend to be longer, and the smoke temperature is lower. Now, you're puffing in 500 mils of air. This 500 mils of air, unfortunately, contains very fine particles. These are the particles that are found, like, for example, in forest fires,
mm-hmm.
in things that don't combust completely. They're called microparticles. Now, because of water pipe smoking, the way it's smoked, you're actually breathing more deeply, and these microparticles get to the very, very fine particles of your lung, the terminal branches, which is where oxygen gets exchanged.
Right.
With nicotine, you don't get that. So basically, more harm from water pipe smoking because you're now damaging the really, really fine parts of your lung.
Wow.
And the danger with water pipe smoking is that it forms carbon monoxide. Now, carbon monoxide has a higher affinity for hemoglobin than oxygen does. So what does that mean? It means that it will sit there longer and not come off,
mm-hmm.
which means that you're going to get less oxygen, and that's why you get carbon monoxide poisoning from water pipe smoking.
Good Lord. Okay, so you get carbon monoxide poisoning from water smoke piping. Also, the furthest recesses, most sensitive part of the lungs get hammered.
And these are the parts that's very hard to fix
mm-hmm.
once they go. Right, people asthmatics and that have that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing water pipe smoking does is that there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, right? The bad cholesterol are the LDLs.
Mm-hmm.
The good cholesterol are the HDLs. Well, you can predict water pipe smoking increases the bad guys, reduces the good guys. Increases cholesterol levels, increases all sorts of things that are not basically you wouldn't say you would get from smoking apples.
Wow, absolutely amazing. So water pipe smoking, not good. Professor Ismail Lahir, visiting us from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, born in South Africa, but certainly been around the globe several times. Professor Ismail Lahir, it's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Wonderful.
And do enjoy the rest of your stay in Stellenbosch. I know your days are running down.
I really appreciate it, and it's wonderful to see your station. May Allah Ta'ala make it more successful and grant you all good health and prosperity.
Amen to that, and no water pipes.
No water pipes, no.
Shukran. Thanks very much.
Jazakallah.
Drive time 91.3. Always